Hi there, it's Simone. I'm so glad you are joining me today for another currently inked video. I did not expect to film this early again after the last one, but surprise, surprise, I have written six pens dry, and so I needed to curate another color palette. But before I do that, I wanted to talk you through what I used and how it went. This is my Traveler's Notebook journal. Well, it's not from the Traveler's Company. I made this myself, where I keep all my notebooks for the different currently inked lists. I document this in 3 places: Tomoe River paper, Cosmo Air Light, and on MD paper. Just because I like seeing how these inks and pens perform on the different papers. And I have also used MD paper in the past for journaling, so it's always nice to see how your inks and fountain pens perform on the papers that you use, or I use. I like to see that. Let's put it this way. I'm gonna take this out because writing in this isn't the nicest. So I inked 9 fountain pens in July, and let me check where that was. That was in the middle of July. On July 13th or 14th, I curated a new ink palette and had these 9 inks and pens in rotation. And I used them quite often. I did not expect to journal as much as I did, but journaling in my writing journal is the easiest accessible for me when I'm stressed and don't know where to start with all the creativity. Then using a colored ink in a fountain pen that I enjoy using is basically the start of being creative, if that makes sense. So I finished my writing journal that I used all throughout July. I started it on May 25th and used it all the way through July 31st. This is MD paper, and I'm really glad to be back in a Tomoe River notebook because I just really like the toothiness or not toothiness of this paper more than here. And I also really like how the shading properties or ink properties on the Tomoe River looks compared to the MD paper. I'll show you one example later on. Yeah, so I journaled pretty often, pretty frequently, and basically used each fountain pen at least twice. That's kind of the average for me in the past 2 or 3 months, is how many times I used those, and it brings me joy. Let's put it this way. So what did not bring me joy a lot was this fountain pen. I actually inked it up to check out whether I do really like writing with it. I wasn't so sure about the way I'm supposed to hold the pen, but it actually worked really well. What I struggled with a lot was the ink. It was super faint, and it was absolutely not enjoyable for me. It was way too light. So I'm gonna put, what did I say? I'm just gonna put a minus, one single minus. I don't really have to say much about the pen. I want to experience it even more now, and just say that ink not cool, way too light. this is what it looked like on the coloring cards from Well Appointed Desk. And I know, and if you don't, a swatch like this will never represent how your ink performs in a fountain pen, but it can give you like an idea of what it might look like. And what I didn't like about this was that it was so dirty looking. This is much more vibrant. This looks more like there's green in here. This doesn't. I wasn't happy, and I'll show you a writing sample in the Tomoe River notebook. I just used it one more time to make sure that it's actually empty. And yeah, super light, not enjoyable. So that's done. I'm going to pass the rest of this ink sample along to someone. Then I used the Kaweco AL Sport Golden Espresso with an M nib with the Diamine Pink Ice, which is a color from the Inkvent 2021. And I thoroughly enjoyed both of those, the pen and the ink. I had previously had some kind of trouble with the weight of the pen and the diameter of the section. I thought it was maybe too tiny, but I really made sure to be relaxed and in a relaxed writing position and how I gripped the pen, and I did not experience as much hand fatigue as I did before. So I'm glad this pen redeemed itself. So I'm just gonna, I don't even know what to write. This was just overall a pleasant experience. So this then, the Opus 88, I don't know the correct name. I think it's called Opus 88 Mini. I took off the nib because I put it in a different pen. I think it's very unwieldy, not because it's heavy, but it's just super clunky. And my handwriting was not very cohesive with this. The ink, however, I love this purple ink. So it was not too cool with the writing experience, but the ink was amazing. And let me show you, not here. I had a really hard time to have a cohesive handwriting. It was, well, this one doesn't even look that bad, but I think I used it again. And it's just, yeah, I really have to make sure that I'm right there when I'm writing. It's a lot harder to keep a consistent, cohesive, what is it? Penmanship. Maybe that's the word. I think I struggled for that word the last time. Maybe I should make myself an index card with the word on it. I'm still getting used to nib. Love ink. Then the TWSBI Mini Rosegold. I'm not going to give it any, or maybe I can put a plus minus. This is super neutral. This is a very nice pen. It has a very fine medium nib. The ink is nice. It's an overall nice thing, pen and ink combination, but it's not super fascinating and exciting, if that makes sense. But, you know, we all need these kinds of pens. Reliable, write nice, the ink doesn't make any trouble at all. Nice, but not exciting. And there is a place for these pens, and I'm glad I have this inked up, and you can see there's still ink in here. Then the Pilot Custom 74 with the Sailor Ink Studio 123 was a really pleasant experience. The shading is always nice, or yeah, lovely shading. I always love writing with this pen. So yeah, plus for me on this. I think this pen will never get a not plus. We'll see about that. So it's Awesome. Shading. Best pen. Yeah, I would say that this is my favorite pen in my collection at this time, and I haven't experienced another pen yet that would take that place. Let me show you how the ink looked on this paper. This is empty paper. It's okay, it's light purple. There's not much variation. I mean, there is shading, but then here, I think this is where this paper shines. This is the same ink. Doesn't it look just so much more complex? Just love it. The Kaweco collection Iridescent Pearl with a medium nib and Vintatala was an okay writing experience. I enjoyed the nib and the ink. I'm glad that it's empty though. Because I still don't gravitate towards these dark blues. So I always have to remind myself to use it, but not because of the pen, but because of the ink. And then this, let's just say this favorite ink. Then here we also have a plus plus. It's super interesting. This is a very smooth and buttery nib. It's soft nib, let's say soft. And I really enjoy writing with it. This is the exact opposite. This nib, this is from an Opus 88, which uses Jowo nibs. It's a steel Jowo medium nib, and it's super hard and very, like, just not scratchy, but very hard. You can feel the writing on the paper, how the pen is on the paper, and I still enjoy it a lot. So this pen definitely has grown a lot on me since I got it. I was not sure about it, but I do really love it now. And I seem to gravitate towards these greens, these olive. Is this olive? What else would you call this color? These always shade nicely. And then they always, the pen is also lovely. Yep. Then this one, again, is one of those. This pen redeemed itself in the beginning when I started using it, and it was inked with the Robert Oster Stargazing, which this pen, I need to tell you, is the TWSBI Swipe Prussian Blue. I have also had an M nib on this pen, and it's a shimmering ink. There was so much shimmer when I started writing with it that you couldn't even see the ink color, and it clogged up multiple times. However, I feel like the shimmer gushed out in the beginning. Then the only shimmer that was left was here in the feed, and after the shimmer was gone, it was actually pretty pleasant to write with. It wrote every time I opened up the pen, no matter how long I hadn't used it. So that's interesting. But that's something that I have experienced with TWSBI pens. They seem to write well every time I use them. So this is glad it's empty because of the ink, but it's a reliable writer. Yeah, I think that's how I would say this. So I had these were the colors that I had and pens that I had inked up. Oh, well, maybe let's put it this way. Yeah, 4, 4, and 5. So we had this, and now we have the problem with the pens rolling that do not have that are round. Oh, someone has to say something. All right, so I have written this one empty, this one is done. This one has a broad nib, and since I used it, I think 3 times, the broader the nib, the more ink it uses. So this, I was surprised that it was empty that fast. So this is empty, this is empty, and these were all empty and done and dusted. So that left me with 3 colors. They were all more leaning towards the red and purples. Right here, it's very easy to see. So that meant that I had 6 open slots if I want to continue inking up 9 pens per ink rotation, which has turned out to be a really nice overall number of pens for me. And so I sat down and took some notes and ideas. I really thought about, I wanted to use a 1.1 stub nib. The only stub nib that I have is Lamy, so that meant I would have to use a Lamy. I haven't inked the Coffee Date by Robert Oster, which is another one of those cozy comfort inks in a pen yet, so that was something that I was considering. And then I went through my swatch book and looked through those. I have a sample of Autumn Forest by Dominant Industries, Bioluminescence by VanDiemans. Then I have a full bottle of buttered popcorn by Ferris Wheel Press that I had used in a pen before. Wasn't too keen on it, but since I was so disappointed with the Lamy Mango, I thought I'm going to give this another shot, especially since, what's her name? The Ginger Ninja raved about this ink and said she purchased a bottle of this. And I was like, why would you want a bottle of this ink? So I'm going to give this, I thought I was going to swatch this again and give this another shot. Then I had a sample of Lamy Turmaline that I wanted to maybe use. I swatched Uramaku Yoi by Sailor last time, maybe that one. And then Robert Oster Blue Seas, maybe. Blue Moon was the one. Then I went into my samples and I ended up swatching. Where is the swatch book? And I have the video on my channel right now, so if you're curious to see how these swatch on different samples, examples, then check out that video. I'm gonna link it up in the cards. Ferris Wheel Press buttered popcorn looks like this. Lamy Turmaline. Here I had my finger on here, so that was a resistance. The Blue Moon, both of those have some sheening properties as well, both red, but also this could be because I had so much ink on this. And then this was one that I was extremely surprised by, the Gray Seas. It's another multi-shading ink, and wow, I loved this. So what I said before, I had the VanDiemans. Let me sort those. So this was one that I considered, the Gray Seas, the buttered popcorn, the Ink Studio 123, the Bioluminescence, the Gray Seas. Then I had the Blue Moon, the Turmaline, and then Autumn Forest. And ta-da, I decided that I would just go with the 4 inks that I had swatched. I really like how bright they are, how just, they make my heart sing at the moment. So those were set. And then I picked the Autumn Forest as well and the Bioluminescence, just because I thought they would round out the swatch, the ink rotation, the color palette, and pushed off with the ones that I was thinking about for next time. So this one is all done, this one is done, and then the other one that I had inked is this. So here's my thought process. I wanted this in a broader nib, so I inked up the, not this one I guess, because there's no nib in here. The only one that I kept moving forward was this one. Let me put this aside. Oops. And then open up this. I looked at all the pens that I own, and I knew that this one was a favorite in the previous ink rotation, so I pulled this one out. I hadn't really used many TWSBI Ecos, so I pulled some out here, and then I knew I needed to use a Lamy because of the 1.1 stub nib. I also wanted to test out or keep using the broad nib that was in the Opus 88, but I wanted to use it in a different pen. So I decided to keep using this one, but just use the broad nib from this. So see how that works. Okay, so 1.1 stub needs an ink that is flowy-ish, that is not too dry, and so I went with Blue Moon. I have heard that Robert Oster inks tend to be more on the dry side, but Lamy inks are supposed to be on the dry side as well. So I thought, let's not risk it. I really wanted, maybe I could have used this, but I decided to ink up the Pelikano Junior with this. So then the Lamy is in here. There's one pen missing. I have this Kaweco Sport in Frosted Coconut, the Kaweco Frosted Sport in Natural Coconut. And this one has a double broad nib, so I can see what this ink actually looks like when it has a lot of room to perform. And then I decided to, I wasn't sure, this one might also be one of those inks that only work with broader nibs, so I went with the broad nib here, and then I decided on 2 medium nibs for these other inks. I do have one TWSBI nib that is really broad. You can actually see the tipping here. It's super broad. Let me compare this to this one just so that you can see. I don't even know if you can see the difference right here, but yeah, this one is broader than this one. And so I decided to go with, put the Bioluminescence in the a bit broader, and then this one here. I don't know if that was the right decision to make now that I'm talking about it, because this one has those nice shading properties. But yeah, that's what this looks like. That's what I'm going to use, and I'm going to switch all of my settings around and start writing in my notebook. So since my camera stopped recording, I'm going to continue or start over. So today is August 10th, 2022, and we are going to go through all the fountain pens that I have inked up. The first one is, I always do this. So the first one is the Kaweco Sport in a frosted model. This is the Natural Coconut. It has a double broad nib, and now there's ink on the nib right here. Okay, and the pen, as I just said, is the Kaweco Sport Natural Nut with a double broad nib, and as you can see, the ink is gushing out of this pen. Ferris wheel press, buttered popcorn. And let me just look when I had inked up this pen before. That was in November, and I had it in a Lamy Safari with a fine nib. And I mean, look at the difference between these two. So yeah, I'm glad I gave this ink another chance in a different pen with a different nib. I need to make sure that this is what the napkin looked like when I inked up the fountain pens yesterday. So yay, isn't that awesome? The second pen is the Kaweco AL Sport Golden Espresso. I think I say this every time I share currently inked. This is one of those pens that was a holy grail pen. I saw it last year in May and fell in love and decided, no, I'm not going to buy it. I don't need it that badly. And by December, I thought, maybe I should get it. And then I found two, one with an extra fine nib and one with a fine nib. So I purchased the fine nib pen and also purchased a replacement nib for this. And that was an M nib. And I really enjoy the M nib on this pen. It's one of the best writing M nibs by Kaweco that I have. The ink is Diamine Pink Ice. And I really like the name for this ink because I feel like it actually represents that color a lot. Ink Vent 21. Are you buying the Ink Vent 22? I am not, but I'm looking for people who are, and so I can follow along and experience it through somebody else. This is the TWSBI Mini Rosegold 2 second edition in white. I purchased this pen secondhand and it is a very reliable pen so far. I mean, I only had it inked with this ink so far, but if it's in any way, shape or form like the other TWSBI pens, then it will be that. TWSBI Mini Rosegold. It has an M nib. However, I think that this is more on the finer side of the M nibs. This is Robert Oster. Old Book Smell. And this is one of those colors that I definitely gravitate towards. And as you can see, I finally managed to correct my mistake. When I originally swatched those, I wrote warm book smell instead of old. But yeah, this and also the olives are some of my go-to colors. I really, probably 10 out of 20, no, I don't know how many inks. But I always gravitate towards these warm dark reds and the olivey green inks. Pilot Custom 74 in Burgundy. It has an M nib. It's the only gold nib that I own. It is a very soft, very buttery, very enjoyable writing experience with this pen. I tend to like the way that it glides over the paper, and especially that my hand does not fatigue. I feel it's very narrow in the section, and so I'm really curious. I'm going to the San Francisco Pen Show. Are you? If you are, maybe we can meet up somewhere. I'm going on Friday. I'm working Saturday and Sunday, so the only day that I can go will be Friday. But if you are there on Friday and you want to meet up, then let me know, because we totally can make that happen. If I'm not too scared. Let's give this little disclaimer. I really always want to meet people, but then when it's time, I'm so afraid of what they say. I'm also like, no, I'm not old, but there's lots of people who are a lot younger, and it's like, okay, this old lady, well, not in the fountain pen, that's more with the journaling and making amazing crafty things. But I'm moving away from what I'm doing here. So the ink is Sailor Ink Studio Amazing Ink. This would be one that I would probably purchase. Or this one, because I feel like this seems to be almost the darker version of this. Well, there's some kind of teal yellowish colors in here. Not so much in this one, I think, but this is basically the darker version of that one. This is now I'm uncapping and capping this pen the second time, the TWSBI Eco Tea in Mint. I think I need to look it up again. Turquoise, with an M nib. The difference between the Eco Tea and Eco is that this has a triangular grip section. I don't mind that. It suits my writing style, but if you are someone who holds their pen not like it is taught in the books, then maybe that would be something. When I inked this up yesterday, I had some trouble with the ink flowing to the nib, and now I'm having the same thing again, and I don't know why that is happening. I don't see anything that is wrong with this. It's the right feed. It's all the way down. Let's see. Maybe the nib is wrong. I don't know. I need to be aware of that. Maybe I need to change the nib. So this is the TWSBI Eco Tea in turquoise. M nib, and the ink is Robert Oster Gray Seas. It's interesting. I just told you before that I don't like the dark blues. Well, this is a shading ink too. So maybe that's what is keeping me from those inks. I'm really learning so much about my ink preferences and all those things while I curate these color palettes for myself, and I just enjoy the whole process. This is my first TWSBI ever. It is the TWSBI Eco in clear, and it has an M nib, and you will see what I mean when I write with this right now. This is so much broader than the others. This is basically looks like it's black. Okay, so TWSBI Eco clear M. So if you look at this M and the writing in this, look how different this is. It's the same nib size, it's the same manufacturer. This is M, this is M, this is M, all different. This is VanDiemans Bioluminescence. So this is basically black. In the ink card here, in the swatch card, you can see that it is, I would say it's a really dark blue with hints of green. And then there is some kind of shimmer on top. I don't think I have any shimmer in the barrel right here. Did I show it to you even? Did you see it? Sorry. I don't think there is any shimmer in the barrel right here. But I am totally okay with this. There's definitely lots of those inks. I would love to make a sample in my ink journal, and I wanted to show you the buttered rum. I actually did one for that when I had it inked in the last time. Buttered popcorn. See, I always say buttered rum. February 25. Here. And it is a nice color. I was really disappointed when it didn't write that nicely with my Lamy nib, and at that time I did not realize how much impact a dry pen, so when the feed is too dry, or the nib size is too small, too narrow, how much impact that will actually have on the ink performance. But I learned, and now I'm more experimental, as you can see. This is my oldest Lamy Safari that I have in my possession. This is a yellow. I purchased this when I was still in high school. I put the 1.1 stub nib on it, and it is inked. Let me show you what it looks like. So this is and the ink is Robert Oster Blue Moon. If you are someone who uses micro mesh and such to smoothen out your nib, did you do that with a 1.1 stub? I'm curious, because I feel like this is scratchy, but I'm not sure if it's me or the nib. Let's move this up. Oh, the cards are in the way. Maybe this is my second favorite pen in my stash right now, and it's so funny because this is one of the cheapest pens in my collection, and also not just that, it is not even mine. It's my son's. This is the fountain pen that he used to start learning how to write with a fountain pen in school. Pelikano Junior. And I would say this is an M nib. It actually says A, which stands for beginner, Anfänger. And then the ink is Lamy Turmaline. Yeah, this is a teal. What is that color actually called? Like, what color is it? Blue, green, right in between blue and green, but there's also lots of yellow in here. So yes, I don't know what this color combination is. I don't even know if you can buy these anymore. They probably have developed other beginner fountain pens since then. I just really like this. It's super clunky and nice to hold on to. So yeah, it's interesting. This pen was like 160. This one probably was below 20. Still enjoy them both equally. This is the last pen that I have in this ink rotation. This is the Franklin Christoph Model 45, and the color is vintage green. Say this again and again, it appeals to my minimalist heart. Just love the shape, the feel of it. I have really gotten to know this pen more since using different nibs in this, and it currently is inked. Okay, hello. Let me shake this and see if it works and helps. I have not used Dominant Industry inks before, so I don't know if they're more on the dry side, if they tend to dry out easily. I know that I had this problem with the Sig Medium nib that was in here before, that it would dry out really fast. So that could be an issue with this. I put the B broad nib from the Opus 88 Mini on here, just so that I can experience that nib on a different pen. What's this? This is Dominant Industries. Let me check. This seems to have some kind of pink sheen on there. Not sure if I can see this here at the moment, but we will see when it's all sampled in all three of those. I will come back then and show you what they compare. Out of all of those, I would love to do a ink exploration or more of inks in my ink journal. I think I want to see this and this, and I also would like to see how this looks, and then this one too. I'm not sure I can get 4 done before they're all written dry. We'll see. Okay, let's look at all of the notebooks. Here is the Tomoe River paper. It's super red and orange on this paper. If I'm looking at the Cosmo Air Light or even the MD paper, I actually like it on here most. But that might also be because on this paper, all of my nibs seem to look a lot finer than here. I think you can see how big the difference is when you compare those two entries, basically. So the last time I used the Ferris wheel press in here was in November, and it was really light and not very legible in all 3 of the notebooks. So I'm curious to see how that works. Maybe I should put it in a broad nib instead of a double broad nib if I'm writing on Tomoe River paper, but I will let you know next time how I experienced this ink. Here the shimmer is still visible on all 3 entries that I made. The TWSBI Mini is no surprise, worked really well. The Pilot Custom 74 in all 3 I showed you last time. There's no surprise either. The Gray Seas only shows these shading properties on the Tomoe River paper. Here it's pretty flat. It's shading, but it's not chromo shading. And then also, for some reason, I must have touched the paper here, and so it has some kind of resist issues right there. It looks like a light purple bluish color on the MD paper. Yeah, I like it most on the Tomoe River paper. The bioluminescence is basically black. There is no color variation to be seen in this ink. It also looks like it's not drying as fast as I need it to dry. And when I flipped through this, it reminds me a lot of the Diamine ink vent color, the Black Ivy. That is also a very not very interesting. It's just there. This looks more blue. This looks more green. But yeah, not much difference. The Blue Moon is really nice, and I showed you the ink. I think I showed you the ink swatches. They both had red sheen here. It's in the writing, I can't really see it, and I'm glad about that because I'm not the biggest fan of red sheen. There's some red sheen right here in the RI, and then here the red sheen on the Turmaline. There seems to be a halo around here. Let me check here. No, I think maybe around here. Now let me check here. No, no such thing as a red sheen. It's interesting, there's no sheen on these inks at all. And I have seen some reviews of the Autumn Forest, and to be honest, I'm disappointed. I had expected more. I will see how I feel when I circle back and do the next ink rotation. But for now, it's not as pinkish, not as interesting as I had expected it to be. But we will see how that works when I'm actually writing sentences with it and get some kind of filler paper with it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I am really curious to know how you like these this time around in my ink rotation. What is your favorite color? What's your favorite pens out of those that I chose? I definitely notice a trend towards broader nibs in general. In my when I pick a pen, I have both broad options that I have here. I have a 1.1 stub. I deliberately chose the broadest medium nib that I own. Yeah, that's interesting. And this beginner nib is also more on the broad side. So that is an interesting trend. I'm curious to see if that is going to continue. I don't know yet because, you know, it's just so much fun to experiment. Wow. Now I need a lunch, and I hope you have a great day. I hope you love and enjoy your fountain pens. Any way you play with those is a great time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon. Until then, goodbye.